gone 3 out of 4 weeks in October. Last weekend, the Langston Motorsport Show, the bike show, was off the hook good. We put up over 10 videos live on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page. And we've got a really good one coming up too. It had to be edited, but it was me having a little interview with all the celebrity riders that were there. Steve Lampson, of course, Langston, Jeff Ward, David Bailey. It's going to be good. I'm going to post it on the page as soon as they get through editing it. Because Langston's got a guy in there full time. All he does is social media. Incredible facility. Over 45,000 square feet. I've never seen so much gear and so many motorcycles in one place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the videos they're all on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Okay. Show starts in 5 seconds. I gotta go.
We're live.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for helping me put the show together. We're at the starting line. Here's what's coming up. And the next time I try this segment, I'm going to show you what happens to a tank that doesn't have a good vent. When it gets clogged, well, you're going to see what happens. In the Moto Showcase, we get a look at a very rare factory works bike from the International Motocross Museum collection. Here's the problem. We've got powder coating and painting questions. Some involve shocks. We've got a couple of other things coming up there too. What's it worth? A 1972 Yamaha RT360. Just how I see it, I think you're going to enjoy this. It involves clothing and the couture of Supercross riders. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Let's get started with the show, Jordan. Naturally, as I tell you every week, please remember to share the show. Whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube, we will have a random share giveaway winner a little bit later in the show. They're going to win this beautiful sticker sheet, compliments of Vinco. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to comment Motion Pro. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got a big giveaway coming up next week. It's for the magazines, for VMX, and for Racer X. I'll tell you more about that in the show. But when you subscribe, you get a little alert like this, and it tells you when we're live on the air. And yes, we will be giving away the two magazines, a one-year subscription to Racer X and VMX magazine. That's coming up next Wednesday live on the show. So subscribe. There will be a random share subscriber or two who will win these magazines. I want to thank Ken Smith and Scott Wallenberg for donating those subscriptions to us. So please subscribe. How are the pros? How are the experts watching the show? They're watching it on their big screen TV in HD while they comment from their phone. It's a great way to view the show. You can see more of the action, and it gives you some time to comment as well. So why don't you try watching the show like that? That's the way the pros are doing it. That's the way the experts are doing it. Keep those cards and letters coming in, whether it is comments about the show events maybe you want me to cover, and we've been covering a lot of them lately, or you want to send us a Moto Showcase bike or anything else that may be on your mind, please send me a message to the inbox and we'll get it here on the show. I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X, Golan Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Preston Petty Products, Northwest Mako CZ, and of course, Full Circle Racing.
The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about gas tanks and a problem you might have going on right before your eyes. You're not going to see it quickly, but it's going to result in something you're going to have to deal with in the end. We've all been there. We have little gas cans like this. We take them to the track with our bikes. You might use it for a lawnmower. You're out there one day, and next thing you know, that little plastic tank is expanding. You open it up, the pressure comes out of it. Well, that isn't so with an aluminum gas tank. And I'm going to give you two examples right here. Using a soft tape measure like this, I went around and measured both of these tanks. This tank on my left was just sent to me by a customer who didn't realize that the tank was expanded. When I measured them, well, I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. This tank is 28.5 inches. This is a stock tank. It measures 27.75 inches. If you're looking at this, you can see this one obviously looks a little bloated. Another thing you want to look for in a situation like this, and it's not only Honda tanks, it could be any aluminum tank for any motorcycle that you have. Look at the mounts on the back of these tanks. You see where this one is beginning to separate from the tank itself, and this one is still tight? That's another telltale sign. Let's look at the front, and you can see how much wider this one looks than this one does here. Also, look at the bottom. As that pressure builds up inside that tank, it starts to wallow in the tunnel of the tank. It's only going to go so far if the tank is still sitting on your motorcycle, and then the exterior of the tank is going to begin to expand. How does this happen? It happens through the gas cap. The vents are not clear. There's no way for the fumes to escape. You got to make sure that that cap has a good vent or take the cap off completely. Many people sometimes will think, well, someone tried to put air in a tank to remove the dent. That isn't necessarily so. But either way, the tank is going to expand and you're going to have a tank that is pretty much rendered useless as far as the restoration goes. You might get away with it if you want to just use the tank to ride. But this was a customer who sent me this tank. It was his first Elsinore. He wanted me to repair the dents. Didn't realize what happened to it, how the dimensions were expanded, till I showed him this one. So whatever bike that you have, whether it has an aluminum tank on it for a Suzuki, a Honda, a Kawasaki, whatever it may be, or a steel tank, make sure the vents are clear in the gas caps. The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going.
In the Moto Showcase tonight, we've got another amazing bike that I was able to videotape when I was at the International Motocross Museum fundraiser. It is here, compliments of Terry Good. So let's get a look at the Moto Showcase bike for tonight.
This week's featured bike is a 1975 Yamaha OW26, and it's being shown to us courtesy of Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum. The bike in this video was raced by Aki Janssen in the 1975 500cc GP season. The engine is a 400cc capacity, and the bike remains very original as it did from the last time it was raced. This rare factory works bike was not only competitive on the GP circuit with Janssen aboard, a very similar bike to it took Jim Weiner to a national championship here in the USA. The monoshock rear suspension was introduced in 1973, but was now more refined and made for excellent handling on this Yamaha. Sand-cast magnesium cases and hubs were used for lightness and strength. The lower fork tubes are machined from billet aluminum. This bike was purchased by Terry Good from Aki Janssen himself. From the hand-formed fiberglass side panels to the sleek and extremely light gas tank, the OW26 is perhaps the slimmest and lightest of all the early factory bikes at that time. Titanium hardware, knurled fork legs, a chromoly frame, and endless bits of one-off handmade machine parts made this OW26 a very unique motorcycle. To learn more about this bike and see dozens of detailed pictures, please visit worksbikes.com. A special thanks to Terry Good for allowing us to use this bike here today in the video on Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Segment is, of course, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. The special this week are t-shirts. Now, you may not need a fender and you may not need a headlight assembly or any of the other great plastic parts that Preston Petty sells, but everybody needs a t-shirt. And with the holidays coming, hey, why not? So they come in blue, they come in gray, and they're a couple of bucks off this week too, just $21.95. Be sure to check them out at PrestonPettyProducts.com. And here's the problem segment tonight. We take a look at some of your questions throughout the week. Jordan, what do we have up first? Sal Scarpa III. Joe, I have a plastic tank with a dent that was caused by leaning the bike against a post. Would you suggest a heat gun and prying at it similar to what you do with aluminum tanks? Sal, I would not recommend that, and I'll tell you why. And I had a few things on my mind with this. Here's a picture of the actual tank. Number one, if you're going to heat that tank up with a heat gun, and then pry in there, when you get it to where it's soft enough to pry, you might wind up going just a little too far and going right through the plastic. I wouldn't recommend it. Or you might even create a high spot, like sometimes that can happen with metal, with an aluminum tank, except you're not really going to be able to get it back down. I would suggest staying away from that tank with any kind of a heat gun. What I would suggest, and maybe you've tried it, maybe you haven't, I don't know if it will work with 100% certainty, but put the bike out in the sun. Put some gas in the tank, just maybe a cupful, okay? Put some gas in that tank and seal off the top. In the segment before this, 2 segments before this, we were talking about tanks expanding, aluminum tanks that don't have a good vent, okay? Put a little gas in there, put it outside without the cap having a good vent, and see if it maybe pops back out. Or just put it out there without any gas in it and see if it returns to its normal shape. This plastic for tanks and for certain fenders does have a memory on it. And when it does sit in the sun, a lot of times they will go back into shape. But I would stay away from it with heat. I think you're going to make it too pliable and you'll wind up with a problem in the long run. If anyone has any suggestions about this, I would encourage you to comment on it right now, or if you're seeing this at a later date and you want to put a comment in about this and you could possibly help Sal Scarpa out, I welcome you to do that, because I don't have a 100% cure for this. I've never seen it on a gas tank. I've seen it on fenders, I've seen it on side panels, and they usually come back. But those are my recommendations for that, Sal. Thanks for the question. Charles Goff, do you know the powder coat colors for the 1974 and 1977 Honda CR 125 shock bodies? Shock bodies on a 1974 or 75 Honda CR 125 were actually painted silver. There's a set of them on the left. So, but you asked me about powder coating them. Okay, so let's take this one step at a time. RAL 3020 is the powder coat that you want to use on the red shocks for the 77. Now I'm going to tell you this. It's close, but it's not Tahitian red. I've never seen anybody that made a Tahitian red in powder coating that matches 100%. It will match your VMX plastic, VMX from Angel Fire, New Mexico. It will match that. It will match a Mako red, but it's not an exact match for the Honda Tahitian red. By the time you put it on the bike and you put the springs back on and it's all together, it'll be far less noticeable. But RAL 3020 is for the red paint, the red powder coating on those shocks. For the silver, what I would recommend you do, Charles, is take those shocks down to your powder coater and see if he has something that's a very, very close match in an aluminum. Silver comes in so many different shades, and maybe down there on his sample chart, on his chips, you're going to see something that will match that silver. And while you're at it, do yourself a huge favor. Let him do the springs too. Get the springs powder coated, get them done in black. They get them really, really clean with the sandblasting that they do. It's not so easy, even if you have a good vapor blaster or even a bead blasting cabinet. Really, if you're going to send the bodies to be powder coated, I would suggest you get the springs too. So RAL 3020 on the red, and take your silver down to your powder coater and see if you can match it up with something that he has there. Thanks, Charles. Josh Verb, I need kickstands for my 1974 Honda CR125 and CR250. They're becoming hard to find. Will other model Hondas work? You sent this question in at perfect timing. I just ran across this. Johnny Angle from UTV Inc. in Mesa, Arizona is now reproducing kickstands for the CR125 and the 250. He does a beautiful job on them. I've seen some of his other work. I have a little tire changing stand here that he sent me. And he does really, really quality stuff and makes a lot of trick stuff for the older bikes. So get over to UTV Inc. in Mesa, Arizona. They have a Facebook page, and the guy's name is Johnny Angal, Angal, and he is making reproduction kickstands for the CR125 and 250. I think they're somewhere around $100, maybe a couple of bucks more. But if you can't find one and you've got a restoration and you want the right stand, that's the place to go. Thanks for the question, Josh. I hope that helped.
Hi, you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
We gotta pray, Rick. We gotta
after this prayer.
Hello everyone, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing you the Trick New Pro Plug sockets from Motion Pro. The Pro Plug sockets are very clever design. They're heavy tool steel construction for durability. They feature a slim skeleton design for hard to reach heads and cylinders, and they feature a really trick, innovative retention system. This retention system is mechanical and it's not a rubber grommet, so you're never going to battle between the spark plug and the socket. So the socket is always going to be easy and firm to attach to the spark plug, but also it's going to be easy to remove. So you're not going to have to go fishing in those deep well heads to get that socket out. Now the socket features a couple of different drive components. You can use a 17 mil open end wrench, a 3/8 drive socket, as well as a through axle, right? So you've got a couple of different ways you can use this product. Now we have these available in 3 different sizes, and those 3 different sizes are 16, 18, and 21, available to fit most model motorcycles, V-twin as well as metric. Retail starts at $21.99 up to $22.99, available from your favorite retailer nationwide.
In the What's At Work segment tonight, that's brought to you by Full Circle Racing. This is the part of the show where we tell you what a bike recently sold for, and we encourage you to comment what you think the price was that it brought. The bike that we're looking at tonight is going to be a 1972 Yamaha RT360. I will tell you this, it was sold in Utah on October 18th. I'll read you the description while Jordan goes through the slides and you can get a better look at it. Up for your consideration is this beautiful 1972 Yamaha RT360 Enduro. This motorcycle is in all original factory condition with just 3,170 miles on it. It runs and drives great and everything functions properly, including all the lights and gauges. The engine is very healthy and typically starts within a few kicks. The 2-stroke oil injection system works as it should. I have replaced the tires with proper tread pattern to match the originals. Also, the fuel valve has been replaced with a new one. There's typical wear and tear throughout the motorcycle from use and age. You can see all this in the photos. Feel free to ask any questions. Now, what do you think this bike sold for? It was all original with just 3,170 miles on it. You see the condition of it in the picture right here as Jordan's going through the slides. It is very original. I just hope that when the owner did change the tires on it, I hope he saved the original tires, because that'd be a real nice touch on a bike this original. But how much do you think this bike sold for? 3,000? 5,000. This bike sold for $6,500, an RT360, $6,500 in Utah, October 18th. Those DTs and RTs from the late 60s, early 70s, they're really, really going up in value. So that's how much it went for, $6,500. That segment is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Tom is still running a great special up there for powder coating hubs. Just $50 a hub for $10 more. He will do the brake plate as well. That's in satin black or gloss black. Custom colors are available. Get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing Limited. Find out what he's got up there for you. Might have some spokes, rims. He certainly has this powder coating special that's been going on for a while. Thank you, Tom McAllister. Have you ever heard of? This is a great little segment. Brings you a bike that you have never heard of before. Have you ever heard of a Galera? The Galera. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. In 1935, Galera acquired rights to a Rondine 4-cylinder engine. It was at the time the world's most powerful engine with 60 horsepower. The first across-the-frame 4-cylinder motorcycle racer in 1939 was the Galera 500 Rondine. It had a double overhead camshaft, forced inducting supercharger, and a water cooler producing over 60 horsepower. That was in 1939. This formed the basis of the Galera racing team for nearly 40 years. From the mid-30s, the Galera developed a range of four-stroke engine machines. The engines ranged from 100 to 500 cc's. After withdrawing from competition in 1957, Galera changed the direction abruptly. They downplayed their success and they went on to build some smaller bikes, and they also got into the motocross and the off-road market. In 69, Galera became part of the Piaggio group, and they did go on to win some Grand Prix with them as well. World War II, they won some races in the Grand Prix circuit with 500cc bikes, and with the downturn of the war, they decided that they were going to stop making motorcycles and people were going to start building cars again in Italy, but they always had that race heritage and they built a variety of bikes. Now, in 57, George Duke did take them to another world championship, and he was out there chasing Derek Minter, who rode a matchless at that time. But poor sales put Galera into receivership, and they had some declining sales and eventually did have to close their doors. But they did make an incredible four-cylinder bike, and they also got into the motocross and the enduro scene for a while. So from 1935 up until the 90s, Galera, they were out there, and now you have heard of a Galera. Yes. Sunrise vapor blasting. I've been sending stuff to Mark Ferriester for quite some time now. I know a lot of other people have been sending it too. So whether it's for a boat, plane, motorcycle, car, truck, whatever it may be, if you want it cleaned, cleaner than it was new, get it over to Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. He'll put it in that tank and it will come out sparkling without ever changing the profile of the metal. If you have any fittings that go along with it that are pressed into your piece, no need to worry. Mark handles it all very, very gently, and it comes out beautiful, just like this carburetor right here in the video. And whether there's brass fittings in there or whatever it might be, it's going to come out perfectly, just the way you'd expect it. Perfect for a restoration, perfect for a race bike or a car. If you want to use it and you want to make sure it's as clean as possible, get a hold of Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. We're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, we will have tonight's random share giveaway winner. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. And if you're on YouTube, comment Motion Pro.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
As promised, when we return from the commercial, we have tonight's random share giveaway winner, and it is John Spinger. John Spinger. If you're still watching the show, get a hold of us, get us your address. You are tonight's random share giveaway winner. You will get a nice sticker sheet just like this, compliments of Vinco. John Spinger, you are tonight's random share giveaway winner. If you're watching, get a hold of us. If you're a friend of John's and he's not watching, let him know. Just how I see it. You know, a picture popped up the other day on Facebook that I saw a few years ago, and Jordan's got it here on the screen. I'll show it to you. Here it is. This picture of Ken Roxon going to a press conference for Supercross. It was a couple of years ago. Ryan Dungey was still riding. And I thought that this was a real classy act and a great thing to do. And I wanted to know your opinion on this. I thought a guy showing up for a press conference like this, much the way some of your Formula One drivers do, or maybe some of your NBA stars travel, wearing a suit, it brings, well, look, the NBA, your NASCAR guys, some other sports, there may be a different league, no pun intended, than motocross or supercross. But I thought Kenny showing up with a suit like this brought some class to the sport. I thought it brought a new respect to it as well, and I was hoping it would continue. I thought he made an excellent role model for the younger kids too, where they could see how maybe a professional athlete is going to handle himself at a press conference. Now, I saw some people commenting about, well, I'm a sponsor. If I'm paying him and Honda's paying him or KTM or whoever it might be, well, he should be wearing our colors. Well, you know how I see that? The top riders are all out there in the main event, and every time they either win a heat or they win a main event, there's 5 minutes of thanking sponsors. I think there's enough of that out there, but I don't think there's enough of a presence with guys looking a little bit more professional, especially during a press conference or anytime they're off the track. So, but I'd like to know your opinion about that. Do you think guys should show up at a press conference dressed like Kenny did at that time? I think they should, but that's just how I see it. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by RacerX Magazine, available on your newsstand now, and of course, available online. And don't forget, we're giving away a copy of RacerX next week live on the show. Not a copy, a full year subscription. This Week in MX History. Gabor's DQ'd. This is a really interesting story. It was 1976, a day that will live with some in infamy, as it was the beginning of the end of the Trans Am Series Rabbit Run Motocross Park right outside of Dallas. They hosted the 6th round of the 76 series, and veteran maker rider Sylvain Gabor's got an upset win. Why was it an upset win? I'm going to tell you. But the Belgian's motorcycle was tech inspected after the race was over, and Carol Chandler was the inspector. And it turned out that after the 1-3 victory that Gabor's came in with, they checked his axle, and the axle happened to be aluminum on the bike. This was against AMA rules at the time. The AMA had been watching Gabor's for weeks, and they were waiting for him to win an event so they could make an example out of him. And when he won at Rabbit Run, they disqualified him. They did disqualify him, and they did put up a stink about it. Mako did, and Sylvain Gabor's did. They did send the axle in to Westville, Ohio, where the axle was inspected, and it turned out that it was legal by FIM rules, and it would be overlooked, and they gave Sylvain Gabor's the win back. But I thought that was a rather Machiavellian move by the AMA at that time. Knowing a guy is using an aluminum axle every week, and you're just waiting for him to win to make an example out of him. Anyway, I love controversial stories like that, and that was in 1976, Sylvain Gabor's. In 1978, Rocket to the top. Rocket Rex Dayton got his first major win in the Trans Am finale at Rio Bravo, Texas, and his teammate Bob Hurricane Hanna made history by winning the 78 Trans Am Series. It's the first time an American had ever won it since the genesis of the series in 1970. Staten rode a Dave Osterman prepped OW39 factory Yamaha with a 1-3 finish to earn the overall. Britain's Graham Noyce was second on the RC 450. Hanna placed third on a 420 that was prepared by Keith McCarty. Oh, Ricky-san. Ricky-san wins in Japan. 1984, Yamaha's Ricky Johnson and Jeff Ward are the big winners at the Suzuka Supercross, a precursor to the Tokyo and Osaka Supercross races, which will begin to flourish in the late 80s. Riding for Team Yamaha, RJ will win with a 2-1 in the 250 class. The top Team Honda's David Bailey, Kawasaki's Billy Lyles, and Honda's Bob Hanna. In the 125 class, Kawasaki's Jeff Ward went on to top Honda's Ron Lachine with both moto wins. That was in Osaka, Japan. I'm sorry, the Suzuka Supercross, Ricky Johnson. The announcements are coming up. The announcements, of course, are brought to you by Golan Products. I've been telling you about this little filter for weeks now. They come in blue, orange, red, and silver. They made a billet. They can be cleaned indefinitely. They cost a little bit more, but they last forever. Get over to Golan Products or just send them an email at golanproducts@yahoo.com, golanpro@yahoo.com. We do have a show this week. I've been busy. I've been on the road all month of October, and but I am going to squeeze one in. It's not going to be an interview with a legendary racer or a mechanic, but I am going to have something very, very interesting for you at noon on Sunday at Vintage Motocross Radio. We're going to have Tom McAllister of Full Circle Racing and John Graves of Woody's GP Products. I'll tell you why I'm going to have these guys on. They are both regional coordinators for vintage racing and have been for a long time. They're seeing some classes grow. They're seeing some things decline. We're going to have an open discussion on that, and we are inviting you, everyone watching this, and anyone that you can invite over to Vintage Motocross Radio on Sunday at noon. You can put in your questions. We'll be talking about that, and we'll be talking about longevity of vintage motocross and what we all can get involved with to make sure that happens. Sunday at 12, Vintage Motocross Radio, Tom McAllister and John Graves. A sad note this week, Wes Cooley has passed away. Wes Cooley, he was an AMA Hall of Fame inductee, also the winner of the Superbike class in 1979 and 1980, a very, very accomplished rider, also for Yoshimura Suzuki, where he won the Japan's prestigious Suzuka 8-hour endurance road race in 1978. He would go on again to win that race a year later when he was teamed up with Graham Crosby. Wes Cooley died of complications from diabetes in Twin Falls, Idaho. He was originally from LA. Wes Cooley, just 65 years old. Our condolences go out to the Wes Cooley family. Also, another tragedy within motocross, a good friend and a great mechanic to everybody, Gerald Rocky Williams. That's him standing here on the right. Rocky passed away just a few days ago. He had been battling cancer for quite a while. Rocky was an incredible mechanic for Galen Mosier, not only with Mako, but also on Kawasaki. The incredible thing about Rocky Williams, and so many people had so many great things to say about him who worked with him, including Harry Clem and Tim Buck. Rocky Williams was deaf. He couldn't hear a thing. And he was the greatest tuner in the world. And he had a way of communicating with Galen Mosier. In fact, when Galen went from Mako to Kawasaki, he said Galen said that Rocky had to go with him. They were close friends, good buddies, and we lost Rocky Williams this week. Oktoberfest is coming up. In fact, it's this weekend. Tammy Greenhill put on a race at Glen Helen. That is combined with ARMA. Kids always ride for free thanks to Rod Lake. So this is it. On Sunday, get down to Glen Helen for Oktoberfest. I will be at another event next weekend, all the way out in Maryland. Both Warren Reed and I will be present at the District 7 alumni that is at the Broom Factory in Baltimore, Maryland. Looking forward to getting out there. If you've never been to the Broom Factory, this event happens to be closed, but the Broom Factory does host an incredible collection of vintage motorcycles. I will be bringing you some live videos from there, also a lot of pictures and maybe some interviews, depending on who's there. But Warren Reed and I will be making a personal appearance November 7th at the Broom Factory, the AMA District 7 alumni. Thank you, Bill Nazelrod, so much. Let's get down to the finish line this week. Northwest Mako CZ's got a little special going on for you for the 1974 and a half and 1975 Mako. They've got an airbox, $74.95. Go over to their website, Northwest Mako CZ. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available. The t-shirts are just $19.99. They're in gray and they're in white. Jordan, don't go anywhere just yet unless you want to go back to full screen. We have been out of Vintage Motocross Q&A mugs like this. We've been out of them, but we're going to have a new supply coming in next week. You'll be able to buy these mugs. Preston Petty has been helping us out with these. It's got the Vintage Motocross Q&A logo on the other side. Also, we were encouraging people to send in bikes for the Moto Showcase. I've been doing that a lot with the International Motocross Museum bikes. But if you send in a bike that we feature on the Moto Showcase section of our show, you'll get a mug like this, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Preston Petty products. And I know there's a guy out there who sent in a 1975 Honda a couple of weeks ago. We just got the mugs. I'm going to send you this one. We're going to have more mugs coming back on next week's show. But don't forget the t-shirts and hoodies. Great little Christmas item, and that's not too far away. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available to you. We've been having some banner weeks when we've been on the road showing a lot of videos. Like we posted over 10 videos live from the Langston Motorsports, Langston Motorsports bike show. Now, we were going like 18, 20, 22,000 a week. We reached over 30,000 last week. Jordan, I accidentally sent Jordan this little slide right here. It says July 24th to August 20th, and that was our stats for 28 days. It's not. It's over 30,000. 30,000 a week at this point. We reached over 10,000 just yesterday because we've been putting up so many great little videos and so much content on the page. So if you are a sponsor or want to be a sponsor and you have a product that you want to get on the show, now would be a really, really good time to do that. We'll put you up on the wall back here, just like Motion Pro, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, and everybody else. Get a hold of me. I'll get you a sponsorship proposal package, and you could be hitting a lot of people every week. Over 20,000, 25,000. I bet you by the end of October, probably by the end of next week, I bet you we hit over 70,000 this month. Anyway, That's it for tonight for Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget to join me on Sunday with Tom McAllister and John Graves for Vintage Motocross Radio. We'll be talking about the future of vintage motocross racing here at Vintage Motocross Radio. And that's really about it, other than Gino, Rocco. Where are you, boys? Thanks for watching Vintage Motocross. Come on, Gino. Come on, Gino.